The Pacific fog rolled thick across Naval Amphibious Base Coronado that morning, swallowing the training grounds in gray silence. Commander Ilara Thorne stood at the window of the briefing room, watching the mist curl around the obstacle course where she'd nearly drowned during Hell Week 12 years ago. The memory tasted like salt water and blood. Behind her, 8 Navy SEALs filed into the room. She didn't turn. She could hear it in their footsteps, the hesitation, the weight of judgment. The door clicked shut, sealing them all inside. "Gentlemen," Ilara turned from the window, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who'd learned to command in rooms full of men who didn't want her there. "We have a situation." She pressed the remote. The projector hummed to life, casting blue light across faces hardened by combat. Senior Chief Declan Reeves sat in the back row, arms crossed over a chest thick with muscle and scar tissue. 52 years old, 28 years of service. His gaze measured her with the flat assessment of a man who'd seen commanders come and go. The satellite image on screen showed a compound in the desert, low buildings, razor wire, guard towers casting long shadows in the Mexican sun. 72 hours ago, Dr. Preston Aldridge was taken from his hotel in Monterey. Ilara advanced the slide. A photograph appeared, a man in his late 50s, graying hair, tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Nuclear weapons designer, Q clearance, currently responsible for classified projects that could redefine tactical nuclear deployment. She let that sink in. Watch their faces shift from skepticism to focus. Mexican authorities believe it's cartel-related, ransom play. Another slide, thermal imaging of the compound, heat signatures clustered around the main building. Intelligence suggests approximately 40 hostiles on site, heavy weapons, sophisticated security protocols. Declan's voice cut through the room like a blade. "With respect, ma'am, what's SEAL Team 7 doing running a snatch and grab in Mexico? This smells like CIA work." Ilara met his gaze, held it. "Because the CIA requested us specifically, Senior Chief. Because Dr. Aldridge is worth more than money, and whoever took him knows it." "Then send Delta. Send the Rangers." Declan leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Hell, send the Marines. Why us?" "Because we're the best." The words came out harder than she intended. "And because I'm ordering it." The silence that followed had teeth. Ilara advanced to the tactical overview, satellite maps, guard rotations, entry points marked in red. "We insert via SDV from the USS Tucson. Establish observation post here." She tapped the ridgeline. "Confirm target location and execute surgical extraction. 72-hour window. After that, Aldridge disappears, and whatever he knows goes with him." She outlined the plan with precision. Maritime approach, silent infiltration, minimal engagement. Every detail calculated, every contingency mapped. When she finished, Declan stood. The other SEALs watched him like sailors watching a storm roll in. "Commander, I've been doing this since before you were born." His voice carried no malice, just flat statement of fact. "I've run ops in the sandbox, the stand, the horn. I've pulled targets out of holes so deep we needed mining equipment. And I'm telling you, this plan is built on hope and satellite photos." Ilara felt the room shift, felt the weight of every set of eyes measuring her response. "Then what would you recommend, Senior Chief?" "Direct helo insertion, fast rope onto the roof, overwhelming force, in and out before they know we're there." Declan's jaw set. Proven method, proven results. "And if the intelligence is wrong, if they're expecting us, then we adapt. That's what SEALs do." Ilara walked to the front of her desk, close enough to see the gray stubble on Declan's chin, the old burn scar snaking down his neck. Close enough to smell gun oil in Copenhagen. "My father was a SEAL," she said quietly. "He died in Bosnia, 1995. His team ran a direct assault based on faulty intelligence. Wrong building, wrong enemy. They walked into an ambush because someone wanted fast results over careful planning. The room went still. I found his after-action report when I was 16. Read it so many times I memorized it. The last line said, "Speed is not courage. Patience is not cowardice." He wrote that 3 hours before he died. Ilara's voice didn't waver. "So no, Senior Chief, we don't adapt. We plan. We execute. We come home." Declan stared at her for a long moment. Then he sat down. "Yes, ma'am." The briefing ended 20 minutes later. The SEALs filed out in silence, leaving only Ilara in the blue glow of the projector. She killed the power, stood in the darkness, and let herself shake. Her phone buzzed. Encrypted message. Unknown number. "Jim, locker 47. 1 hour. Come alone." The base gym smelled like sweat and rubber mats. Ilara changed into PT gear, moved through the weight room like she belonged there. The combination on locker 47 was written on the inside of her wrist in ballpoint pen, numbers that would sweat off in an hour. Inside the locker, a USB drive. Nothing else. She pocketed it, finished a meaningless set of pull-ups, and drove to her off-base apartment in Imperial Beach, a place where nobody asked questions and the walls were thin enough to hear the ocean. Her laptop sat on the kitchen counter, disconnected from everything. She plugged in the drive. One file. Video. No audio. The footage showed a conference room, expensive furniture, oil paintings on the walls. Two men sitting across from each other. One she recognized, Garrett Blackwood, CIA Senior Operations Officer. Silver hair, expensive suit, a face that promised classified briefings and midnight flights. The other man was younger, Slavic features, speaking Russian. The timestamp read 3 days ago. Ilara's blood went cold. The video ended. A text file opened automatically. Mole in command chain. Mission compromised. Trust no one. Below that, a partial transcript. NSA intercept. Russian GRU communications, encrypted, discussing American female commander and Project Valkyrie. Her hands found the edge of the counter, gripped until her knuckles went white. Someone in the chain of command was feeding intelligence to the Russians. Someone who knew about Aldridge. Someone who knew about her. And they'd sent her this warning anyway. Her phone rang. "Secure line," she answered. "Commander Thorne." Garrett Blackwood's voice, smooth and controlled. "I hope you're packed. We need to talk before you deploy." "Where?" "The usual place. 30 minutes. The line went dead. The safe house in Chula Vista was a ranch-style home with blackout curtains and enough electronic countermeasures to blind a satellite. Ilara had been there twice before, both times for briefings that didn't officially exist. Blackwood met her at the door. He looked older in person, lines carved deep around his eyes, tired in a way that came from carrying secrets. "Coffee?" He gestured to the kitchen. "Answers." Blackwood smiled without warmth. "Direct. I appreciate that." He moved to the window, adjusted the blinds. "What do you know about Project Valkyrie?" "Nothing. Classified above my pay grade." "Not anymore." He turned to face her. "Dr. Aldridge isn't just a nuclear weapons designer, Commander. He's the designer. Valkyrie is a next-generation tactical nuclear platform, variable yield, GPS-guided, small enough to fit in a backpack. A weapon designed to change the math on nuclear deterrence." Ilara felt the room tilt slightly. And someone took him. Someone who knew exactly what he was working on. Someone with the resources to grab a Q-cleared scientist from a hotel room in broad daylight. Blackwood pulled out a tablet, swiped through images. "Your mission brief said cartel involvement." "That's the cover story. The truth is worse." The images showed the compound from different angles. Thermal scans, guard positions. And there, in the corner of one photo, a BTR-80 armored personnel carrier, Russian manufacture. "GRU," Ilara said. We believe so. Colonel Viktor Sokolov, if our intelligence is correct. Spetsnaz commander. Ghost in the system. An operator who makes people disappear. Blackwood met her eyes. If Sokolov has Aldridge, he has Valkyrie. And if he has Valkyrie, we have approximately 72 hours before those specifications are transmitted to Moscow, and we lose any chance of containing this. Then why not tell me this in the briefing? Blackwood's expression went carefully neutral. Because your mission isn't just extraction anymore, Commander. It's elimination. You recover Dr. Aldridge, and you eliminate anyone who's had access to Project Valkyrie specifications. No survivors, no witnesses, no trail. The weight of it settled on Alara's shoulders like a rucksack full of stones. You're asking me to execute a black op on foreign soil without official authorization. I'm asking you to do what needs to be done. Blackwood stepped closer. Your team thinks this is a rescue mission. It can't be. The moment you confirm Sokolov's presence, the rules change. This becomes a kill mission. Do you understand? Alara thought about Declan in the briefing room, about the 7 men who'd follow her orders, even if they didn't trust her judgment. About her father's last report. I understand. Good. Blackwood handed her the tablet. Everything we have is on there. Memorize it. Burn it. And Commander? He paused at the door. Be careful who you trust, even at the highest levels. After he left, Alara sat in the empty safe house and read through the intelligence until the words blurred. Guard rotations, building schematics, Sokolov's operational history, Chechnya, Georgia, Syria. A man who'd spent 30 years perfecting the art of making problems disappear. Her phone buzzed again. Different number. Another encrypted message. This one was just a photograph. It showed Garrett Blackwood sitting across a table from a man in a dark coat. The same man from the video in locker 47. The same Russian. The timestamp, yesterday. Ilara stared at the image until her eyes burned. Then she deleted it, pulled the battery from her phone, and drove back to base in silence. The USS Tucson cut through black water 200 miles off the Baja coast. Virginia-class submarine, fast attack, quiet enough to slide under Russian sensors like a ghost. Ilara stood in the control room, watching depth gauges and sonar displays pulse in the red emergency lighting. SDV ready for deployment, Commander. The diving officer's voice crackled through her headset. Copy. Team 7, mount up. The sealed delivery vehicle was a coffin with propellers, a wet submersible designed to carry 8 operators through hostile waters in silence and darkness. Alara pulled on her dive gear in the tight confines of the torpedo room, checking seals and regulators with the automatic precision of 10,000 training dives. Declan appeared at her elbow, already suited up. Water dripped from his dry suit collar. 6 clicks to insertion point, current running 3 knots northeast. He didn't look at her. You sure about this approach? I'm sure about the plan, Senior Chief. You have concerns, now's the time. Always have concerns. Declan checked his weapon. HK-416 with suppressor, wrapped in waterproof sheeting. Just don't usually voice them to commanders who've made up their minds. Then why voice them now? He finally met her eyes. In the red light, his face looked carved from stone. Because your father was right. Speed isn't courage, but hesitation gets people killed just as dead. You plan for perfection, you better be ready for chaos. I am. Hope so. Declan moved toward the SDV lockout chamber. Because once we're wet, there's no calling time out. The team loaded into the SDV like rounds into a magazine. Smooth, practiced, no wasted motion. Ilara took the pilot seat, Declan beside her in co-pilot. The others packed behind them, breathing through regulators, eyes invisible behind dive masks. The submarine's deck plates vibrated as the chamber flooded. Cold Pacific water rose around Alara's legs, her chest, her neck. She checked her heads-up display. navigation computer showing the route as a glowing line through darkness. Tucson Control, Team 7 ready for deployment. Copy 7, you are go for launch, good hunting. The outer hatch opened. The SDV's electric motor hummed to life, pushing them out into open ocean. Ilara couldn't see anything beyond the reach of the SDV's forward lights, just particulate matter drifting in the beam like snow. She flew by instruments, watching the nav display countdown distance. 6 kilometers. 5. The motor's hum was the only sound besides her own breathing. Beside her, Declan sat motionless, not asleep. SEALs learn to rest without sleeping, to conserve energy in the moments between action. But his stillness had weight, judgment maybe, or just the patience of a man who'd made this run 100 times before. 4 kilometers. 3. The bottom started rising on the depth gauge, continental shelf giving way to coastal waters. Ilara adjusted trim, brought the SDV up to 20 meters. Through the murk, she could make out the green phosphorescence of bioluminescent plankton, disturbed by their passage. 2 kilometers. Something moved in the darkness ahead, large. Ilara's hand went to the emergency ballast release. Then she saw the shape resolve into a humpback whale, 40 feet of muscle and grace sliding past them like a dirigible through clouds. The whale's eye caught the SDV's light for a moment, dark and knowing. Then it was gone. 1 kilometer. Ilara brought them up to 10 meters, slowing their approach. The nav computer beeped. Waypoint reached. She killed the motor, let momentum carry them the last 100 meters into the shallows. They surfaced in a small cove, rocks on 3 sides, dark water lapping at sand. Ilara cracked the SDV hatch, tasted fresh air for the first time in 90 minutes. The team unloaded in silence. Weapons and gear passed hand to hand in the darkness. Mexican coastline. No lights visible. Just the sound of waves and the distant call of nightbirds. Declan moved beside her, water streaming from his gear. He scanned the beach with night vision, sweeping the tree line. Clear, they cached the SDV in 15 feet of water, marked the location with a sonar beacon, and moved inland. Single file, weapons ready. The sand gave way to scrub brush, then rocky ground that climbed toward the hills. 2 hours of hiking in darkness. No talk, just the rhythm of boots on stone and the weight of 60 pounds of gear. Ilara set the pace, fast enough to make distance, slow enough to stay quiet. Behind her, she could hear the team moving like a single organism, professional and silent. The observation post was a cluster of boulders on a ridgeline, 900 meters from the target compound. Perfect fields of fire, cover and concealment, natural defensive position. They arrived 3 hours before dawn. Ilara unpacked her rifle, Barrett M107A1, 50 caliber, capable of punching through engine blocks at a mile. She mounted the thermal optic, settled into a prone position between 2 rocks, and glassed the compound. Through the scope, the world turned to shades of white and gray. Heat signatures bloomed like flowers, guards moving on patrol routes, clusters of warmth inside buildings, the hot exhaust of generators. She counted. 43 hostiles visible, more probably inside. And there, parked beside the main building, a BTR-80 armored personnel carrier, Russian military hardware, 8-wheeled, capable of carrying a squad of Spetsnaz operators. Blackwood's intelligence was solid. Declan slid into position beside her, his own weapon trained on the compound. "That's not cartel," he said quietly. "No. That's professional military. Russian, if I'm reading those patrol patterns right." Ilara said nothing, watched a guard pause to light a cigarette, the thermal bloom of the lighter bright as a star. "Commander," Declan's voice carried an edge, "what exactly are we walking into?" She lowered the rifle, met his eyes in the pre-dawn darkness. "The truth? I'm not entirely sure, but it's bigger than a rescue mission." "How much bigger?" Ilara pulled out her tactical tablet, shielded the screen, and showed him the intelligence report. Watched his face change as he read. Project Valkyrie, GRU involvement, the real stakes. When he finished, Declan was quiet for a long time. Does the team know? Not yet. Planning to tell them? When I need to. His jaw worked. That's not how we operate, Commander. SEALs don't keep secrets from each other. Not in the field. This isn't a normal mission. No shit. He gestured at the compound. That down there is a hornet's nest. Russian intelligence, heavy weapons, unknown number of hostiles. And you want to take them on with 8 operators in hope? I want to complete the mission. At what cost? The question hung between them. In the distance, the first gray light of dawn touched the horizon. Whatever it takes, Ilara said finally. Declan stared at her. Then he turned back to his rifle, settled behind the scope. Your father would have said the same thing, right before he got his whole team killed. The words hit like a fist. Ilara felt her breath catch, felt anger rise hot in her throat. But Declan was right. She'd memorized her father's after-action report, knew every line, every tactical decision, every moment where he'd chosen mission over caution. And she'd spent 12 years telling herself she was different, smarter, more careful. Now, looking at the compound through her rifle scope, she wondered if she was just making the same mistakes with better technology. What would you do? She asked quietly. Declan didn't answer right away. He adjusted his scope, tracked a guard moving between buildings. I'd call for backup. Get Delta Force on standby, maybe an AC-130 for air support. Tilt the odds in our favor before we go loud. And if there's a mole in the command chain, if calling for backup tips off the Russians that we're here, then we're fucked either way. Declan lowered his rifle, looked at her. But at least we'd be fucked with reinforcements. The rest of the team had established a perimeter, weapons facing outward, creating a defensive circle around the OP. Silas Wraith Hartwell, the youngest at 29, crouched near the northern rocks, scanning the approaches. Good kid, orphan, like her. She'd pulled strings to get him through BUD/S when the instructors wanted to drop him for a stress fracture. He'd never forgotten it. The sun rose slowly, burning off the coastal fog. In daylight, the compound looked even more formidable. Concrete walls, guard towers at each corner, a place designed to keep people in or out. Ilara spent the day mapping every detail. Guard rotations changed every 4 hours. 12 men per shift on external patrol. More inside. The BTR moved twice, circling the compound, testing fields of fire. At 1400 hours, a black SUV arrived. 3 men got out. One of them moved like a predator, controlled, economical, aware. Even at 900 meters, Ilara could see the command presence. That's him, Declan said. Sokolov. Through the thermal scope, she watched Sokolov inspect the perimeter, speak with guards, check sight lines. A professional doing professional work. Then he disappeared inside the main building. That's where Aldridge would be. Deep inside, protected. As the sun set, Ilara made her decision. She gathered the team in the rocks, kept her voice low. We execute tonight, 0200 hours. Alpha Element, Senior Chief Declan will lead. You hit the western perimeter, create noise, draw their attention. Bravo Element, myself, Wraith, and 2 others. We infiltrate from the east, locate Dr. Aldridge, and extract. What about the Russians? One of the SEALs, a thick-necked operator named Trent, gestured at the compound. We engaging or avoiding? Engage only on my order. This is a surgical strike, not a war. Declan was watching her, measuring. Commander, we need to talk. Private. They moved away from the others, into the deeper shadows between boulders. You're making a mistake, Declan said flatly. Splitting the team against superior numbers without backup. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Ilara pulled out her phone, showed him the photograph. Blackwood meeting with the Russian operative. This was taken yesterday. My CIA handler is either compromised or he's the mole. Either way, I can't trust him. Can't trust anyone outside this team. Declan, somewhere in the darkness, a coyote called. Your father said something similar, Declan said finally. Night before Bosnia, I was there. Young kid, first deployment. He told us the mission came first, always, no matter what. He looked at Alara with ancient eyes. You know what his team called him? Behind his back? No. The martyr, because he'd sacrifice anything for the mission, including himself, including us. Declan's voice was soft, almost gentle. And when he walked into that ambush, 12 of us followed him. Only 3 came out. I was one of them. Spent 6 months in a hospital, learning to walk again. Ilara felt something cold settle in her chest. You served with my father? 3 deployments. He was the best operator I ever knew, and the most dangerous because he believed so hard in doing the right thing that he couldn't see the cost until it was too late. Declan stepped closer. You have his eyes, his voice, his absolute certainty. And it scares the hell out of me because I've been down this road before and I know where it ends. Then why are you still here? Because maybe you're not him. Maybe you learned something he didn't. Maybe this time it turns out different. Declan checked his weapon, slapped the magazine home. Or maybe I'm just too old and stupid to quit. He walked back to the others, leaving Alara alone in the dark. She thought about her father, about the reports she'd memorized, about the moment he'd chosen to push forward despite bad intelligence, despite warnings, despite his own doubts, about the moment he'd become the martyr. Her phone buzzed. Another encrypted message. Another warning. Admiral Ashford knows about the mole. He's using you as bait. Mission is compromised from the top. Ilara stared at the words. Admiral Kendrick Ashford, her uncle, the man who'd raised her after her parents died, the man who'd mentored her through the academy, through BUD/S, through every step of her career. Using her as bait. She deleted the message, pulled the battery from the phone, sat in the darkness and felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders like stones. At 01:45, the team moved out. Alpha element went west, disappearing into the scrub with the silence of smoke. Bravo element went east. Ilara, Wraith, and 2 others named Kincaid and Boone. Good operators, solid, men who'd follow orders even when they didn't understand them. They reached the perimeter fence at 01:58. Chain link, 12 feet high, razor wire on top. Kincaid produced a thermal lance, cutting through metal with superheated flame, slow and quiet. The fence peeled open like skin. Inside the compound, Alara could hear guards talking in Russian. Bored voices. Men who didn't expect trouble. 2 minutes. Wraith moved ahead, scanning for sensors. Found the infrared grid, marked it with IR paint, only visible through night vision. They stepped between the beams like dancers, every movement precise. 0-200. Alpha Element's assault began with a flashbang grenade and sustained automatic fire. The western perimeter erupted in chaos, muzzle flashes, shouting, the deep thump of the BTR's autocannon opening up. Bravo Element used the noise, moved fast across open ground while every Russian eye turned west. Reached the main building's east wall just as return fire intensified. Ilara stacked the team at the door, tested the handle, locked. Breaching charge, small and precise. The door blew inward with a crack of explosive, and they were through. Inside was darkness and concrete. Ilara swept left, rifle up, night vision turning shadows green. An empty hallway, stairs leading down. They moved room by room. CQB combat, close quarters, lethal, no margin for error. First door, storage room, empty. Second door, barracks, 6 guards sleeping. Ilara made the call with hand signals. They killed all 6 in silence. Suppressed weapons, double tap to the head. Professional, necessary. The bodies slumped in their bunks without sound. Third door, radio room. One operator at the console, headset on, monitoring the Western assault. Wraith dropped him with a single shot. The body hit the floor, and the radio kept crackling with Russian voices calling for reinforcements. Stairs leading down. Ilara descended into deeper darkness. The walls were reinforced concrete here, bunker-level construction. At the bottom, a steel door with a biometric lock. She checked her watch. 4 minutes since Alpha Element engaged. Declan's team would be running low on ammunition, taking casualties. Kincaid shaped a breaching charge against the lock. "Commander, this is going to be loud." "Do it." The explosion blew the door off its hinges. Ilara was through before the smoke cleared, rifle tracking, finger on the trigger, and there, in a cell lit by a single bare bulb, was Dr. Preston Aldridge. He looked worse than his photograph. Face swollen with bruises, one eye nearly shut, blood crusted around his mouth. He flinched when the light hit him, tried to stand, fell back against the concrete wall. "Dr. Aldridge, I'm Commander Thorne, U.S. Navy. We're here to extract you." His good eye focused on her. "You're real?" "Yes, sir." "Can you walk?" "I think so. The Russians, they wanted Valkyrie. I didn't tell them. Didn't tell them anything important." His words came out slurred, desperate. "They know about the design, but not the back door. I built in a flaw. Safety measure. If they try to build it without the correction codes, the whole system fails catastrophically." Ilara felt ice run down her spine. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm the only one who can make Valkyrie work. Without me, the specs are useless. They can't—" The lights came on. All of them. Brilliant fluorescent glare after hours of darkness. And a voice over the intercom, speaking perfect English with a cultured accent. "Commander Thorne, we've been expecting you." Ilara spun toward the door, saw it slam shut, heard magnetic locks engage with heavy clicks. Then she heard footsteps, many of them, descending the stairs. "Bravo Element, sit rep," she called into her radio. Static. "Alpha Element, Declan, respond." More static. Then a different voice, American, familiar. "Hello, Ilara." Garrett Blackwood walked into the cell. He wore tactical gear now, body armor, a Sig Sauer in a drop holster. Behind him, Colonel Viktor Sokolov and 8 Spetsnaz operators in full combat load. Ilara kept her rifle trained on Blackwood's chest. "I should have known." "Yes, you should have," Blackwood smiled sadly. "But you wanted to believe in the system, in the mission, in doing the right thing, just like your father. You're the mole. I'm the survivor." Blackwood's smile faded. 15 years ago, the CIA sent my team into Syria. Bad intelligence, political games. We were abandoned, left to die while Washington covered its ass. 7 good men tortured to death because someone decided we were acceptable losses. "So you turned traitor." "I turned realist," Blackwood gestured at Sokolov. "The colonel and I have an understanding. He pays very well for very specific information. And Project Valkyrie? That's retirement money." Ilara calculated angles. 4 operators in her team, trapped in a cell. 9 hostiles at the door. No cover, no chance. "Alpha Element is destroyed," Blackwood continued conversationally. "Your senior chief Declan fought well. Killed 12 men before we overwhelmed him. He's wounded, but alive. For now." "You son of a—" "I gave you every opportunity to walk away, Ilara. The warnings, the evidence. I practically drew you a map." Blackwood's expression turned cold. "But you're your father's daughter. Had to be the hero. Had to prove yourself. And now you're going to die in a Mexican basement, and nobody will ever know what happened here." Sokolov stepped forward. He was shorter than Ilara expected, compact and powerful, with eyes flat and cold. "Commander Thorne, you have fought well. This can end easily, or it can end hard. Choice is yours." "Go to hell." Expected answer. Sokolov nodded to his men. "Take them." Ilara fired first, Three-round burst, center mass on Blackwood. He went down hard, body armor catching the rounds but breaking ribs. She swung toward Sokolov. The Spetsnaz were faster. Stun grenades flooded the room with light and sound. Ilara's vision whited out, her ears screaming. She felt hands grab her, wrench the rifle away, force her to the ground. When her vision cleared, she was zip-tied, kneeling on concrete. Wraith, Kincaid, and Boone beside her, equally restrained. Dr. Aldridge curled in the corner, moaning. Blackwood climbed to his feet, gasping, one hand pressed to his ribs. That hurt. Good, Ilara said. Sokolov checked Blackwood's armor, nodded. She shoots well. Like her father, I think. He also fought hard in Bosnia. I was there. Different war, same outcome. He turned to Ilara. Your father killed 6 of my men before we stopped him. I wonder if you can do better. Guess we'll find out, Sokolov smiled. Actually smiled. Yes, we will. He raised his pistol, and the compound shook with an explosion. Everyone froze. Another explosion, closer. The lights flickered. Sokolov barked orders in Russian. Half the Spetsnaz team ran up the stairs. Ilara could hear gunfire above, sustained, heavy. Through her earpiece, still active despite the jamming, Declan's voice crackled. Commander, still in this. Brought friends. The ceiling collapsed in the corner, raining concrete and dust. Through the hole, night sky. And descending on fast ropes, weapons firing, suppressing the guards. 4 more SEALs. The rest of Team 7. Not dead after all. The cell erupted into chaos. Ilara threw herself backward, rolled, got her zip-tied hands in front of her. Found a piece of broken concrete, used the sharp edge to saw through the plastic. Wraith did the same beside. Sokolov fired at the incoming SEALs, hit one in the shoulder. The operator fell but kept shooting. Return fire forced Sokolov into cover. Blackwood tried to run. Wraith tackled him, drove him into the wall. They went down fighting, fists and knees in desperation. Ilara's zip tie parted. She dove for her rifle, came up firing, dropped a Spetsnaz operator with a headshot, swung toward another. Sokolov was faster. He had Dr. Aldridge by the neck, pistol to the scientist's temple. Cease fire! Sokolov's voice cut through the gunfire. Cease fire or Doctor dies! The shooting stopped. The echoes faded. Silence except for ragged breathing and the crackle of small fires. Sokolov backed toward the stairs, dragging Aldridge. You want him alive, yes? Then you let me leave. Ilara kept her rifle trained on his head. Not happening, Colonel. Then he dies, and Valkyrie's secrets die with him. You have 10 seconds to decide, Commander. From the floor, Blackwood laughed, wet, pained. She won't shoot. She's too much like her father, always trying to save everyone, always failing. Ilara met Aldridge's eyes, saw terror there, in resignation. The scientist mouthed 2 words, do it. 3 seconds. Ilara made her choice. She shot Dr. Preston Aldridge through the head. The bullet passed through Dr. Preston Aldridge's skull and buried itself in the concrete wall behind Colonel Viktor Sokolov. The scientist's body went limp, sliding from Sokolov's grip like a discarded coat. Blood sprayed across the Russian's face. For one frozen moment, nobody moved. Then Sokolov dove for cover, firing blind. His remaining Spetsnaz operators opened up with automatic weapons, muzzle flashes strobing in the confined space. Ilara dropped flat, rolled behind a support pillar as rounds chewed through concrete where she'd been standing. Suppressing fire! She screamed into her radio. The 4 SEALs who'd fast roped through the ceiling laid down a wall of lead. Their M4s hammered in controlled bursts, forcing the Russians back, giving Ilara's team seconds to regroup. Wraith appeared at her elbow, face streaked with concrete dust and someone else's blood. Commander, what the fuck? Later, right now we extract. She grabbed Garrett Blackwood by his body armor, hauled him upright. He was conscious, but barely, ribs broken, breathing shallow. Commander, western perimeter collapsing. Need immediate exfil. Compounds crawling with Russians. At least 60 hostiles. 60. They'd walked into a hornet's nest with 8 operators. Copy, Bravo element moving to your position. Hold what you've got. Sokolov's voice echoed from somewhere in the smoke and darkness. Impressive shot, Commander, but you have made grave mistake. Without Aldridge alive, Valkyrie is incomplete. You have nothing to bargain with now. Ilara didn't answer. She was already moving, team following in a wedge formation. They hit the stairs at a run, boots pounding on concrete. Behind them, the Spetsnaz were regrouping, preparing to pursue. The upper level was a war zone, bodies everywhere, Russian guards, Mexican sicarios hired as additional security, all dead or dying, bullet holes stitched across walls, fires burning in side rooms where grenades had detonated. Through a shattered window, Ilara saw Alpha Element's position. Declan and 3 other SEALs had fortified behind an overturned truck, taking fire from 3 directions. One operator was down, not moving. Another had a tourniquet around his thigh, still shooting. Kincaid, Boone, lay suppressing fire on that guard tower 3 o'clock. Ilara dropped to one knee, brought her rifle up. Wraith, you're with me. We're going to get our people. She didn't wait for acknowledgement, just ran. Across 50 meters of open ground, tracers snapping past her head like angry hornets. Her boots hit sand and gravel, each footfall jarring through her spine. Beside her, Wraith matched her stride for stride, his breath harsh in her earpiece. A Russian stepped out from behind a storage shed. Ilara shot him twice without breaking stride. His body spun away, and she was past, closing on Declan's position. 10 meters out, an RPG streaked overhead, exploding against the compound's main wall. The shockwave knocked her sideways. She hit the ground hard, rolled, came up with ringing ears and the taste of copper in her mouth. Hands grabbed her, dragged her behind the truck. Declan's face swam into focus, streaked with blood and cordite. "You're late," he said. "Traffic was hell." Ilara checked his wounds, shrapnel in his left shoulder, through and through gunshot in his right leg, field dressing already applied. "Can you move? Can I breathe?" Declan grinned without humor. "Then I can move." The SEAL with the leg tourniquet was a kid named Torres, 24, second deployment, eyes wide with shock and adrenaline. The dead operator was Henderson, a veteran who'd survived 3 tours in Afghanistan, only to die in a Mexican desert. Ilara pushed down the guilt, filed it away for later. Right now, survival. "Sit rep," she demanded. Declan gestured at the chaos around them. "We hit the western perimeter like planned. Diversionary assault. Draw their attention. Standard op. Except there were 3 times as many hostiles as intelligence suggested. Well-trained, well-equipped, coordinated response. We got pinned down within minutes." "How'd you survive?" "Torres called in air support without authorization. Maverick move, but it saved our asses." Declan nodded toward the sky. "Navy helos inbound, ETA 5 minutes. But we need to reach the LZ, and it's 400 meters through very hostile territory." Ilara pulled up the tactical map on her wrist display. The designated landing zone was a cleared area on the compound's eastern edge, currently occupied by at least 20 Russian operators in the BTR armored vehicle. "We'll never make it through that," Wraith said, reading over her shoulder. "No," Ilara studied the map, calculating angles and odds. "But we don't need to. There's an alternate LZ here." She tapped a point north of the compound. "Old helicopter pad, overgrown but serviceable. 300 meters. Still bad, but better than 400 through a kill zone." Declan checked his ammunition. 2 magazines left. "What about Blackwood?" "Zip-tied with the rear element. He's coming with us. Dead weight in a firefight. He has answers we need. He lives until I get them." A burst of automatic fire chewed through the truck's hood, spraying them with metal fragments. Ilara ducked, felt something hot slice across her cheek. Blood ran down her jaw. Decision time, Commander. Declan's voice was steady despite the chaos. We move now, or we die here. Your call. Ilara keyed her radio. All elements, this is actual. We are moving to alternate L, Z, coordinates uploaded to your displays. Fighting, retreat, leapfrog formation. We leave no one behind. Acknowledge. 5 voices came back, each one clipped and professional. Her team, still functioning despite impossible odds. Torres, you're on point. Wraith, cover our 6. Declan, you're with me. Ilara hauled Henderson's body across her shoulders in a fireman's carry. 200 pounds of dead weight, but she'd be damned if she left him for the Russians to desecrate. On my mark, move! They ran into hell. The retreat was a nightmare of fire and movement. Ilara's team bounded backward in pairs, one element running while the other laid down covering fire, then switching, leapfrogging through the compound's outer structures while bullets turned the air to soup. Ilara carried Henderson's body for the first 100 meters before her legs started screaming. Kincaid took over without a word, slinging the dead seal across his shoulders like he weighed nothing. Russian voices shouted in the darkness, coordinating, flanking. These weren't cartel thugs. These were Spetsnaz, professionals who'd spent careers hunting men through hostile terrain. At the 200-meter mark, the BTR's autocannon opened up. 20-millimeter rounds tore through a storage building, shredding corrugated metal like tissue paper. Torres went down, hit in the back. Wraith dragged him into cover, checked the wound. Through and through, missed the spine. Wraith slapped a combat dressing on it. You're good to move. Torres nodded, teeth gritted, and kept running. Ahead, the old helicopter pad emerged from the darkness. Cracked concrete, weeds growing through the cracks, rusted refueling equipment. And standing between them and salvation, Colonel Viktor Sokolov with 10 Spetsnaz operators. They'd anticipated the alternate LZ, cut off the escape route, cut off these team. Skidded to a halt behind a line of fuel drums, trapped, Russians behind them, Russians ahead. The BTR's engine growled as it repositioned for a clear shot. Well, Declan said conversationally, this is thoroughly fucked. Ilara checked her watch. 3 minutes until the helo arrived. 3 minutes they didn't have. Unless. She looked at the fuel drums. Old, rusted, but still heavy with aviation gasoline. Looked at the BTR positioning itself for a kill shot. Looked at her team, battered and bleeding but still fighting. Made her choice. Kincaid, Boone, rig these drums with det cord, 30-second fuse. She switched radio channels. Navy Helo, this is Team 7 actual. LZ is hot. Repeat, LZ is hot. We are marking position with IR strobe and pyrotechnics. Lots of pyrotechnics. The pilot's voice came back, steady despite the situation. Copy, 7 actual. We see multiple hostiles in the area, engaging with door guns on approach. Negative, negative, danger close on friendlies. Hold fire until we mark targets. Say again? You want us to hold fire? Trust me, you'll know the targets when you see them. Kincaid worked fast, wrapping det cord around fuel drums, setting fuses. Commander, if this goes wrong, then we all go together. Ilara pulled an IR strobe from her kit, activated it. The infrared light was invisible to the naked eye, but would shine like a beacon through the helo's night vision. Wraith, when I give the word, you put a tracer round into those drums. Understand? Wraith chambered a tracer round, phosphorus tip that would burn white hot. Understood. Ilara stood up, stepped into the open. Every Russian gun swung toward her. Sokolov's voice carried across the 100 meters between them. Commander Thorne, still alive. I am impressed. Colonel, last chance to surrender. He actually laughed. You are surrounded, outnumbered. Your mission has failed. Dr. Aldridge is dead. You have nothing. I have something. Ilara raised her voice. I have the truth about Garrett Blackwood. Silence. Even the gunfire paused. Your CIA handler has been feeding you information for years, Ilara continued, telling you about American operations, selling you secrets. But did you know he's been doing the same thing to Chinese intelligence? And to the Iranians? Playing all sides, collecting paychecks from everyone? Behind her, Blackwood, still zip-tied, bleeding, shouted, "She's lying!" "Am I?" Ilara pulled out her phone, held it up. "I have his communication logs, bank transfers, names and dates, everything. And if I die here, it all gets uploaded automatically to every intelligence service in the world, including yours. How do you think Moscow will feel about their prize asset being a triple agent?" Sokolov's silence was different now, calculating. "You're bluffing," he said finally. "Maybe, or maybe I'm giving you an out. You let us leave. I keep Blackwood's betrayal quiet. You save face with your superiors. Everyone walks away." The BTR's turret swiveled toward Ilara. Sokolov's voice hardened. "Or I kill you all and take phone from your corpse." "You could try," Ilara smiled, "but you've got about 90 seconds before that Navy helo arrives with enough firepower to level this entire compound. And I'm guessing you don't want to explain to Moscow how you lost a team of Spetsnaz operators and got nothing to show for it." She could see Sokolov's face in the moonlight, weighing options, calculating odds. Then he made a mistake. He ordered his men to advance. "Wraith," Ilara said calmly, "light it up." The tracer round hit the fuel drums in a shower of white sparks. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the world turned to fire. The explosion was massive, a wall of flame that rolled across the compound like a living thing. The fuel drums detonated in sequence, each blast feeding the next, creating a firestorm that turned night into day. The Spetsnaz operators nearest the drums simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the blast wave. The others were thrown backward, uniforms burning, screaming. The BTR took the explosion broadside. Armor plate buckled. The vehicle lurched, tracks shredded, turret cooking off in a secondary explosion that lit up the sky. Ilara was already moving. "Go, go, go!" Her team sprinted through the gap in the Russian line, boots pounding across concrete. Behind them, the compound was an inferno. Buildings collapsing, ammunition cooking off, everything burning. Overhead, the Navy MH-60S Seahawk came in fast and low, door guns tracking for targets. But there was nothing left to shoot, just fire and smoke and the twisted wreckage of Russian hardware. The helo flared, landing gear kissing the cracked concrete of the helicopter pad. The crew chief waved them aboard, shouting over the rotor wash. Ilara counted heads as her team loaded. Kincaid, Boone, Wraith, Torres being carried by two other SEALs, Declan limping but moving under his own power, and Garrett Blackwood dragged aboard by Kincaid, still zip-tied, still bleeding. Last one on was Ilara. She turned back, scanning the compound one final time through the flames. Movement in the smoke. A figure, burning, staggering. Colonel Viktor Sokolov, uniform blackened, face blistered, raising a pistol with a hand that had no skin. He fired. The round hit Ilara's body armor, center mass, knocking her backward into the helo. The crew chief grabbed her, pulled her inside as the pilot pulled pitch, and they were airborne. Sokolov fired again, missed, fell to his knees in the flames. Then the compound was shrinking below them, a circle of fire in the Mexican darkness, and they were racing toward the coast at 150 knots. Inside the helo's cargo bay, Ilara sat against the bulkhead, breathing hard. Her chest felt like someone had hit it with a sledgehammer. The body armor had caught the round, but she'd have bruises for weeks. Declan slid down beside her, field medic already working on his leg wound. "That," he said over the rotor noise, "was the craziest thing I've ever seen, and I've seen some shit. Did it work? We're alive. I'd call that a win." He gestured at Blackwood, slumped against the opposite bulkhead. "What about him?" Ilara looked at the CIA officer. Their eyes met across the cargo bay. "We need to talk," she said. Blackwood laughed, wet, pained. "What's there to talk about? You killed Aldridge. Valkyrie is gone. The mission failed." "Did it?" Ilara pulled something from her pocket, a USB drive, small and innocuous. "Before he died, Dr. Aldridge gave me this. Said it contained the correction codes for Valkyrie's back door. Everything the Russians would need to make the weapon functional." Blackwood's eyes went wide. "He wouldn't." "He did, because he trusted me to do the right thing." Ilara turned the drive over in her fingers. "Question is, what is the right thing? Give this to my superiors at SOCOM, the CIA, or destroy it and make sure Valkyrie stays dead?" "You can't make that call," Blackwood said. "You're a commander, not a policymaker." "Neither are you, but that didn't stop you from selling American secrets to the Russians. I told you why. The agency abandoned my team, left us to die. I spent 5 years in a Syrian prison being tortured because Washington decided we were acceptable losses." Blackwood's voice turned raw. "You think you understand sacrifice? You don't know the first thing about it." Ilara leaned forward. "Then educate me. Tell me everything, starting with who else knew about this operation." "Why should I?" "Because in about 3 hours we're landing at Naval Air Station North Island. The moment we touch down, you're going into a black site prison where you'll spend the rest of your life in a hole. But if you cooperate, if you give me the full network, every Russian asset, every compromised operation, every dirty secret, I can make sure you get a deal. Not freedom, but something better than a concrete cell in 23 hours a day in darkness." Blackwood was quiet for a long time, staring at the helo's deck. "Admiral Kendrick Ashford," he said finally. The world tilted. "What about him?" "He knew. About me. About the Russians. About everything." Blackwood met her eyes. "NSA flagged my communications 2 months ago. Brought the evidence to the Admiral. He could have arrested me immediately, rolled up the entire network. But he didn't." Ilara's voice came out flat, emotionless. "Why not?" "Because he wanted to use you as bait, send you into a known trap, see how the Russians responded, map out their entire intelligence network based on who they contacted and how they reacted." Blackwood smiled bitterly. "You were never meant to succeed, Ilara. You were meant to be a canary in a coal mine. And if you died, acceptable losses, just like my team in Syria." The helo hit turbulence. Ilara barely noticed. Her uncle, the man who'd raised her, who'd mentored her through every step of her career, who'd stood at her father's funeral and promised to take care of her, using her like a chess piece. "You're lying," she said. "Am I?" Blackwood gestured at his tactical vest. "Front left pocket, encrypted phone. Password is 8807. Check the messages." Ilara wanted to refuse, wanted to call him a liar and a traitor and throw him out of the helo at altitude. But she checked the phone. The messages were all there. Encrypted communications between Blackwood and a contact listed only as Lighthouse. Time-stamped, detailed, undeniable. And the final message, sent 6 hours before the mission launched: "Package is in play. Thorn deployed as planned. Maintain position and observe. Do not interfere. This needs to look authentic. Acceptable casualty estimate, 60 to 70%. Target intelligence value, complete GRU network exposure. Sent from a SOCOM secure server, Admiral Ashford's server." Ilara stared at the screen until the words blurred. Declan touched her shoulder. "Commander?" She looked up. The entire team was watching her, waiting, trusting her to make the call. "Change of plans," Ilara said quietly. "When we land at North Island, nobody talks to anyone. Not SOCOM, not the CIA, not Admiral Ashford. We debrief as a team, internal only. Then we decide what to do with what we know." "That's insubordination," Kincaid pointed out. "It's survival. Elara pocketed the phone. Right now, we don't know who we can trust, but I know I can trust you. All of you. You followed me into hell and fought your way back out. That counts for something. Wraith spoke up from the rear of the cargo bay. What about Henderson? They all looked at the body bag secured to the deck. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Henderson, 32 years old, wife and 2 kids in Virginia Beach, dead in a Mexican desert because Washington played games with people's lives. We bring him home, Elara said, and we make damn sure his family knows he died a hero, not a pawn. The coast appeared below them, white waves breaking on dark sand, American territory, safety. But Elara had never felt less safe in her life. The helo touched down at Naval Air Station North Island just as dawn broke over San Diego. Medical teams swarmed the aircraft, triaging the wounded. Torres and Declan were loaded onto stretchers despite their protests. Henderson's body was removed with full honors, flag draped, carried by an honor guard that had been waiting. Elara watched it all from the tarmac, still in her blood-stained gear, still carrying her rifle. A black SUV pulled up. Admiral Kendrick Ashford stepped out, 64 years old, gray hair cut military short, wearing summer whites with enough ribbons to represent 4 decades of service. Her uncle, her mentor, her betrayer. Commander Thorne, his voice was warm, concerned. Thank God you made it back. We were monitoring the operation, heard it got rough out there. Rough, Elara tested the word. That's one way to describe it. Casualties? 1 KIA, multiple wounded, mission objective achieved. Dr. Aldridge? Dead, killed in crossfire. The lie came easily. But we eliminated Colonel Sokolov and his Spetsnaz team, captured a high-value intelligence asset, recovered classified materials. Ashford's eyes flicked to Blackwood, being loaded into a separate vehicle under armed guard. Garrett Blackwood. I heard reports he was compromised. He was feeding intelligence to the Russians, for years apparently. Elara watched her uncle's face for any tell, any sign of guilt, saw nothing. Question is, how did he operate for so long without being caught? That's what we need to find out. Ashford put a hand on her shoulder. You did good work, Elara. Your father would be proud. The touch felt like poison. Sir, I need to debrief my team, get them medical attention, file my after-action report. Of course, take all the time you need, Ashford smiled. There's a Navy Cross waiting for you when the dust settles. First female SEAL commander to successfully lead a direct action mission in hostile territory. You're going to be famous. I don't want to be famous. I want my people taken care of. They will be. You have my word. His word. The word of a man who'd sent her into a known trap, who'd calculated acceptable casualties and decided her life was worth the intelligence gain. Elara saluted. Thank you, sir. She walked away before she did something she'd regret. The debrief took 6 hours. Elara and her team locked themselves in a secure room and went through every detail of the operation. What they'd seen, what they'd learned, what they'd lost. When she told them about Ashford's involvement, the room went silent. So what do we do? Boone asked finally. Go public? File a complaint up the chain? And who do we complain to? Declan leaned back in his chair, leg elevated, pumped full of painkillers. Ashford is the chain. He's got 40 years of connections, favors owed, leverage on everyone who matters. We're just operators, expendable. Not to me. Elara looked at each of them in turn. You're not expendable to me, and I'm not going to let Ashford bury this. Henderson died because we were used as bait. That's not acceptable. That's not honorable. And it sure as hell isn't what SEALs stand for. So what's the play? Wraith asked. Elara pulled out the USB drive Aldridge had given her. This contains the correction codes for Project Valkyrie, everything needed to make the weapon functional. Right now, it's the most valuable piece of intelligence in the world. And you're just carrying it around in your pocket? For now, until I figure out who to trust with it. Ilara set the drive on the table. But I know one thing. I'm not giving it to Admiral Ashford. Whatever game he's playing, I'm not going to be his pawn anymore. The room was quiet. Outside, she could hear the sounds of the base, aircraft launching, drill instructors shouting, the normal rhythms of military life. But nothing felt normal anymore. Declan spoke up. Your father used to say something. The mission comes first, but the men come always. Took me years to understand what he meant. The mission is temporary. Success or failure, it ends. But the bonds between warriors, that's permanent. That's what matters. He also got his whole team killed, Ilara said quietly. Yeah, he did, because he forgot his own lesson. Put the mission ahead of his men. Declan met her eyes. Don't make the same mistake. Whatever you decide to do about Ashford, about Valkyrie, about all of this, we're with you. But not because you're our commander, because you're one of us, and we don't abandon our own. Ilara felt something crack inside her chest. Not breaking, opening. Thank you. Her phone buzzed. Encrypted message, unknown number. She opened it. A photograph, taken from a distance, telephoto lens, showing Admiral Ashford meeting with two men in civilian clothes. One of them she recognized from intelligence briefings, a known SVR officer operating under diplomatic cover. The timestamp, yesterday. While her team was fighting for their lives in Mexico, Ashford was meeting with Russian intelligence. Below the photo, a message. The rabbit hole goes deeper than you think. If you want the truth, come alone. Coronado Beach, midnight. North End, past the Hotel del Coronado. Tell no one. Ilara stared at the message. Commander? Wraith leaned forward. What is it? She made her decision. Nothing, just admin bullshit. She pocketed the phone. Listen, all of you need medical rest. Real rest, not field medicine and adrenaline. Get yourselves checked out. See your families. Decompress. That's an order. What about you? Declan asked. I have a few things to take care of. Paperwork, politics, the fun stuff. She stood. We'll reconvene in 72 hours. Until then, operational security. Nobody talks about what happened in Mexico. Nobody mentions Blackwood or Aldridge or Ashford. We keep this internal until we know who we can trust. All the answers were on this little piece of plastic. Everything Aldridge had known about Valkyrie, everything the Russians wanted, everything her government would kill to protect. And someone out there wanted to tell her the truth about it all. She checked her weapon, loaded a fresh magazine, looked at herself in the reflection of the darkened window, a woman in blood-stained fatigues, face bruised, eyes hard. Her father's daughter, the martyr's heir. Midnight, Coronado Beach, alone. What could possibly go wrong? The Pacific Ocean looked black at midnight, waves rolling in with the patient rhythm of something eternal. Ilara walked the beach alone, boots crunching on sand still warm from the day's sun. The Hotel del Coronado glowed behind her like a Victorian ghost, all lit windows and wedding cake architecture. Ahead, darkness. She'd left her phone at the base, told no one where she was going. Classic mistakes that got operators killed. But whoever had sent that photograph knew things nobody should know. Knew about Ashford's meeting with Russian intelligence. Knew about her. And she needed answers more than she needed safety. The beach curved north, away from the hotel's lights. Sand gave way to rocks, tide pools reflecting starlight. Ilara's hand rested on the Sig Sauer at her hip, thumb on the retention strap. Ready. A figure emerged from the shadows near the breakwater, tall, lean, moving with the careful economy of someone trained in violence. As they came closer, Ilara's hand tightened on her weapon. Then she saw the face and understood how he'd survived. Colonel Viktor Sokolov looked like hell, but he was alive. The left side of his face showed the mottled red of healing burns beneath fresh bandages. His left hand was wrapped in gauze, but his eyes were clear, alert, watching her with the same predatory focus she'd seen through her rifle scope in Mexico. She'd seen him fall in the flames, seen him fire that last desperate shot before collapsing. What she hadn't seen was his team extracting him in the chaos, Russians pulling their commander from the inferno while her helo lifted off into darkness. Ilara drew her weapon. "You should be dead." "Yes, I should be many things." Sokolov raised his good hand slowly, showing he was unarmed. "Please, I did not come here to fight. I came to talk." Talk. Ilara kept the SIG trained on his chest. "Your G, are you? A Russian intelligence officer on American soil. I should put a bullet in you and call it a day." "You could, but then you would never know the truth about Admiral Ashford, about Project Valkyrie, about why your father really died in Bosnia." Sokolov smiled without warmth. "And I think you want to know these things very much." The mention of her father made her finger tighten on the trigger. "You said you were there, in Bosnia." "I was. Different war, same lies." Sokolov gestured at the rocks. "May I sit? My injuries are quite painful." Ilara didn't lower the weapon but nodded. Sokolov settled onto a flat stone, moving like an old man. He pulled out a cigarette case, offered her one. She declined. "Your father was good man," Sokolov said, lighting up. The ember glowed red in the darkness. "Brave, skilled. He fought well before we killed him. But he did not need to die that day." "Explain." "Bosnia, 1995. Your father's team was sent to extract a defector, Serbian intelligence officer with information about war crimes. High-value target, very sensitive." Sokolov took a drag, exhaled smoke into the night air. "What your father did not know, the defector was already dead, killed 2 days before. The entire operation was a setup. Set up by who? By your own people, CIA specifically. They needed to prove to Russian intelligence that they would sacrifice their own assets to protect certain secrets. Your father's team was the demonstration." Sokolov's expression hardened. "We were waiting when they arrived. It was not a fair fight. We had 50 men against his 12. We killed them all except 3. Very efficient." Ilara felt cold despite the warm night. "You're lying." "Am I? Then why did the after-action report omit the defector's name? Why were the operation files classified above top secret? Why did the CIA handler who authorized the mission, a man named Garrett Blackwood, receive a promotion 6 months later?" Sokolov smiled. "You have read your father's report many times, yes? But you have never seen the full file. The parts they redacted." He pulled out a tablet from his jacket, tapped the screen, offered it to her. Ilara didn't take it. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I am tired. Tired of games. Tired of watching good soldiers die for bad reasons." Sokolov set the tablet on the rock between them. "I have spent 30 years in service to Russia. I have killed many men. Some deserved it. Many did not. And now I am burned, hunted by my own service, probably dying from these injuries. I have nothing left to lose. So I will give you the truth. What you do with it is your choice. What do you want in return? Safe passage, asylum, a chance to live out whatever time I have left somewhere quiet." Sokolov stubbed out his cigarette. "I have information your government would find very valuable. Names, operations, network details. Everything I know about Russian intelligence activities in America. In exchange, I want to disappear." Ilara finally lowered her weapon but kept it ready. She picked up the tablet. The file was labeled Operation Martyr. Classified. Eyes only. She opened it. The first page was a memo from CIA headquarters, dated 3 weeks before her father's death. Subject line: establishing bona fides with GRU via controlled sacrifice. The words blurred as she read. Her father's team, deliberately sent into a known ambush, sacrificed to prove to Russian intelligence that the CIA was willing to burn its own assets, building trust for a long-term penetration operation that would take years to develop. Collateral damage in someone's career-building intelligence game. The memo was signed by Deputy Director of Operations. The name made her stomach turn. Kendrick Ashford. My uncle authorized this, she whispered. Not just authorized, planned, executed, then covered it up and used the operation to advance his career. Sokolov lit another cigarette. He is very good at sacrificing others for his own benefit. You learned this yourself in Mexico, yes? Ilara looked up from the tablet. How much do you know? Everything. Blackwood and I worked together for 15 years. He told me about Admiral's plan. Use female SEAL commander as bait, expose our network, collect intelligence. Very clever. Would have worked except Blackwood became greedy. Wanted to sell Valkyrie specs independently. Betrayed everyone, including me. Sokolov's laugh was bitter. We are both victims of same system, Commander. Different flags, same lies. The waves crashed against the rocks. Ilara stared at the tablet, at her father's death reduced to a memo, a calculated sacrifice in someone's intelligence operation. Why should I believe any of this? Because deep down, you already do. Sokolov met her eyes. You have felt it, yes? The sense that something is wrong, that the stories do not match, that your father would not have made such obvious mistakes unless the game was rigged from the start. He was right. She had felt it. For years, reading that after-action report, wondering why an operator of her father's caliber would have walked into such an obvious trap. Because it hadn't been a trap he could see. It had been a trap set by his own side. What about Valkyrie? She asked. What's the real story there? Ah, yes, the weapon that changes everything. Sokolov's expression turned serious. Dr. Aldridge was brilliant, truly brilliant. He designed tactical nuclear weapon that is revolutionary. Small, precise, variable yield. Perfect for modern warfare. But he also saw the danger, saw that such a weapon would make nuclear war more likely, not less. So he built in a flaw. The back door. He told me before he died. Yes, without the correction codes, any attempt to deploy Valkyrie would result in catastrophic failure. Detonation in place, killing everyone within blast radius. Sokolov smiled grimly. Including the people who tried to use it. Very poetic justice, I think. And those codes are on the USB drive he gave me. Correct, which makes you the most dangerous person in the world right now. Russians want those codes. Chinese want them. Iranians, North Koreans, every nation with nuclear ambitions. And your own government, Sokolov paused. They want them most of all. Because with those codes, America maintains nuclear superiority for another generation. Without them, Valkyrie is useless. Billions of dollars wasted. Ilara thought about the small USB drive currently locked in her safe at home. The weight of the world on a piece of plastic no bigger than her thumb. Admiral Ashford knows I have it, she said. Of course, and he will do anything to get it. Anything. Sokolov leaned forward. You think because you are his niece, because he raised you, that means something. But I tell you truth, men like Ashford do not have family. They have assets. And when an asset becomes liability, they eliminate it, just like your father. The words hit like physical blows. What would you do, Ilara asked, if you were me? Sokolov was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the dark ocean. I would burn it all down, expose Ashford, release the files about your father, destroy the Valkyrie codes so no one can use them. Scorched earth. He looked at her. But that is easy for me to say. I have nothing left to lose. You? You have your career, your team, your belief in the system. Destroying Ashford means destroying all of that. The system already destroyed itself. It destroyed my father, destroyed your team in Syria, destroyed everyone who got in the way of someone's ambition. Then you have your answer. Ilara stood, pocketed the tablet. I need to think. Time is short. Ashford will move against you soon. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, but soon. Sokolov rose stiffly. I will be at the Seabreeze Motel, room 14, for next 24 hours. If you want my information, my testimony, bring the asylum papers, and I will give you everything. If not, he shrugged, I will disappear, one way or another. He walked away down the beach, a shadow melting into deeper shadows. Ilara stood alone with the sound of waves and the weight of terrible knowledge. Her phone buzzed. She turned it back on after leaving the beach. 17 missed calls, all from Admiral Ashford, and one text message from Wraith. Commander, need to talk. Urgent. My sister arrived early. Something's wrong. She called him back immediately. Wraith answered on the first ring, voice tight. Commander, they took her. What? Who took who? My sister, Madeline. She came to visit me at the base, and 2 men in civilian clothes picked her up. Said they needed to question her about me. About the Mexico operation. But this doesn't feel right. This feels wrong. Ilara's blood went cold. Description of the men? White, 40s, professional, government types. They had credentials but wouldn't say what agency. Madeline texted me from the car. She's scared, Commander. She doesn't know what's happening. Did she say where they were taking her? Some facility in La Jolla, but I can't get anyone to confirm it exists. I called NCIS, FBI, everyone. Nobody knows about any questioning. It's like she just vanished. Leverage. Ashford was taking leverage. Wraith, listen to me carefully. Pack a bag, get off base, go somewhere safe and wait for my call. Don't trust anyone official. Don't talk to anyone about Mexico. Understand? Commander, what's going on? I'll explain later. Right now, just trust me and move. She hung up. Called Declan next. He answered with the groggy voice of someone on heavy painkillers. Commander, what time is it? Late. Listen, I need you to gather the team. Everyone from Mexico. Get them somewhere secure, off base, off grid, hotel, safe house, anywhere that's not official. Why? What's happening? Ashford is making a move. He's taking hostages to pressure me. Wraith's sister is already gone. You and the others might be next. Silence. Then Declan's voice, suddenly sharp. The painkillers burned away by adrenaline. Say again? The Admiral is taking hostages? It's complicated. I'll explain everything when we meet, but right now, I need you to move the team to safety. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. Where do you want us? Ilara thought fast. The Seabreeze Motel in Imperial Beach, room 15. I'll meet you there in 2 hours. Commander, if we're going off-grid against direct orders from an admiral, this better be life and death. It is. Trust me. I do. That's what scares me. She drove through the night, exceeding the speed limit, mind racing. Ashford had made his move faster than she'd expected. Taking Wraith's sister was a message. Cooperate or the people you care about suffer. Classic intelligence tradecraft. Textbook leverage play. And it meant Ashford was desperate, which made him dangerous. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Commander Thorne? Ashford's voice, calm and paternal. I've been trying to reach you. I've been busy. I'm sure. Listen, we need to talk. Face to face. There are some complications with the Mexico operation that need to be addressed. What kind of complications? Best discussed in person. Can you come to my office? I'm here now, working late. It's past midnight, sir. I'm aware, but this can't wait. A pause. I have some information about one of your team members, Petty Officer Hartwell. His sister has been involved in some concerning activities. I thought you'd want to know. There it was, the threat wrapped in concern. What kind of activities? Things that raise security clearance questions, concerns that might affect Petty Officer Hartwell's career, and yours by extension, since you vouch for him. Ashford's tone was gentle, reasonable. Come by my office. Let's discuss this quietly, keep it off the record. No need for official channels, just family helping family. Family. The word tasted like poison. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Ilara said. Good. Oh, and Commander, come alone. This is a private conversation. No need to involve your team. He hung up. Ilara stared at the phone. Every instinct screamed, trap. Ashford was isolating her, getting her alone, vulnerable. Classic setup. But he had Wraith's sister, and if she didn't play along, Madeline would suffer. Maybe worse. She made a decision. Called Declan back. Change of plans. I'm going to meet Ashford at his office. If I'm not out in 1 hour, come get me. Bring everyone. Make noise. Commander, that's insane. You'll be walking into a trap, I know, but he has a hostage, so I don't have a choice. She pulled into the parking lot of her apartment complex, killed the engine. 1 hour, Declan. After that, all bets are off. You're going to get yourself killed. Then make sure it counts for something. She went inside, grabbed the USB drive from her safe, and tucked it into a waterproof pouch on a chain around her neck. If this went bad, at least the Valkyrie codes wouldn't end up in Ashford's hands. Then she drove to SOCOM headquarters. The building was dark except for a few lit windows. Ashford's office was on the 3rd floor, corner suite overlooking the bay. Ilara showed her credentials to the night security guard, signed in, took the elevator up. The hallway was empty. Her footsteps echoed on polished floors. Ashford's office door was open. Light spilled out into the corridor. She walked in. The office was exactly as she remembered from a dozen previous visits. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, walls covered with photographs and commendations spanning 4 decades of service. Ashford sat behind the desk, still in his summer whites despite the late hour. Ilara, thank you for coming. He gestured to a chair. Please, sit. She remained standing. Where's Madeline Hartwell? Safe, comfortable, being well treated. Ashford folded his hands on the desk. She's at a secure facility, undergoing a standard security review. Nothing sinister. But these things can take time, days, sometimes weeks, unless we can resolve certain issues quickly. What issues? The USB drive Dr. Aldridge gave you before he died, the one containing the Valkyrie correction codes. Ashford's expression didn't change. I need you to give it to me. I don't have it. Please, Ilara, don't insult my intelligence. Aldridge gave it to you. We have testimony from the surviving members of your team confirming it. The question is not whether you have it, but whether you're going to hand it over voluntarily or make this difficult. Ilara met his eyes. The eyes of the man who'd tucked her into bed when she was 12, who'd taught her to drive, who'd stood at her academy graduation with tears of pride. The eyes of a stranger. You killed my father, she said quietly. Ashford's expression flickered, just for a moment. I see you've been talking to Colonel Sokolov. So it's true. Operation Martyr. You sent Dad's team into an ambush to build bona fides with Russian intelligence. I made a difficult decision in service of a larger operation, an operation that saved countless lives over the following years. Ashford's voice remained calm. Your father was a good man and a fine officer, but he was also a tool, like all of us, and sometimes tools break in the using. That's the nature of this work. He was your friend. He was my subordinate. There's a difference. Ashford stood, walked to the window. You think I enjoyed that decision? I grieved for your father. I raised his daughter. I gave you every opportunity to succeed in his memory, but I won't apologize for doing my job. Your job included using me as bait in Mexico. Yes, and it worked. We exposed a major Russian intelligence network, eliminated Colonel Sokolov, recovered valuable assets. The mission was a success. Henderson is dead. Torres is crippled. Declan may never walk properly again. Acceptable casualties for the intelligence gained. Ashford turned from the window. You're a commander now, Alara. Time to learn that leadership means making hard choices, sacrificing pawns to win the game. I'm not a pawn. Everyone is a pawn to someone, even me. He moved closer. Now the USB drive, please. Alara's hand moved to her sidearm. Ashford smiled sadly. You're not going to shoot me. You sure about that? I know you, Alara, better than you know yourself. You're too much like your father, bound by honor, by duty, by the belief that the system, however flawed, is worth preserving. You won't pull that trigger because it would mean admitting everything you've believed in is a lie. He was right. Her hand trembled on the grip. But I will make you a deal, Ashford continued. Give me the drive. Let Valkyrie be completed. In return, I'll release Madeline Hartwell. Your team gets their full benefits. No questions asked about Mexico. You get promoted to Admiral's staff, a safe job mentoring the next generation. Everyone wins. Except Valkyrie gets built, a weapon that makes nuclear war easier. A weapon that ensures American superiority, that keeps us safe. Ashford's expression hardened. You think the Russians won't build their own version? The Chinese? Better we have it first. Better we control the technology. Aldridge didn't think so. That's why he built in the flaw. Aldridge was a scientist, not a strategist. He didn't understand the larger picture. Ashford extended his hand. Last chance, Commander. The drive. Alara made her choice. She pulled the USB drive from around her neck, held it up so Ashford could see it. Then she threw it out the open window. It tumbled through 3 stories of night air and disappeared into the darkness below, somewhere in the landscape grounds of the SOCOM complex. Probably landing in bushes or a drainage grate or the bay itself. Gone. Ashford's face went white. What have you done? What I should have done from the beginning. Valkyrie dies here. He moved fast for a man in his 60s, crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, grabbed her by the throat, slammed her against the wall. His grip was iron, choking, rage contorting his features. You stupid, stupid girl. Do you have any idea what you've just destroyed? Years of research. Alara collapsed, gasping, hands at her bruised throat. This is insubordination, Ashford said, straightening his uniform. All of you. I'll have you court-martialed. No, sir, you won't. Declan pulled out his phone, showed the screen. Because we just recorded everything. Your confession about Operation Martyr, your admission about using us as bait, your assault on Commander Thorne. All of it. And it's already uploaded to 5 different secure servers with instructions to release if anything happens to us. Ashford's face went from white to red. You're making a mistake. That's what the commander's father probably thought when you sent him to die. Declan gestured with his weapon. On your knees, sir. Hands behind your head. I'm a 3-star admiral. You can't. I'm a senior chief with 28 years of service and nothing left to lose. Try me. For a long moment, the tableau held. Then Ashford slowly knelt, hands behind his head. Kincaid zip-tied him while Boone called military police. Alara stood, still gasping, and looked at her uncle, the man who'd raised her, who'd killed her father, who'd tried to kill her. I want you to know something, she said, voice hoarse. I loved you, trusted you, believed in you, and you used me, just like you used Dad. I did what I had to do, Ashford said, for the mission. For the country. No, you did it for yourself, for your career, for your legacy. Ilara crouched down to his level. And now your legacy is being a traitor to everyone who ever trusted you. History will judge differently. Maybe, but I won't. The military police arrived 12 minutes later, took Admiral Kendrick Ashford into custody on charges of assault, conspiracy, and conduct unbecoming an officer. The investigation would take months, the trial longer. But the evidence was damning, and Ilara's testimony would bury him. While they waited for military police, Declan limped to the window, looked down at the darkened grounds 3 stories below. The drive's gone, he said quietly. Even if they search every inch down there, that thing's smaller than my thumb. Could be in a storm drain, the bay, crushed under someone's boot. He turned back to Ilara. You just destroyed the most valuable piece of intelligence in the world. Good, Ilara said. She met Ashford's eyes. Some weapons shouldn't exist. Some knowledge should die. My father understood that. Aldridge understood that. Now you do too. Ashford said nothing, but something in his expression shifted. Not acceptance, but recognition. She'd beaten him at his own game. 3 weeks later, she stood in Arlington National Cemetery, watching them bury Petty Officer Marcus Henderson with full military honors. His widow stood near the flag-draped casket, 2 young children clutching her hands. They didn't understand why Daddy wasn't coming home. Ilara understood, too well. The honor guard fired their salute, 7 rifles, 3 volleys, echoing across the peaceful hills. A bugler played taps, the mournful notes hanging in the autumn air. After the ceremony, Henderson's widow approached her. Commander Thorne, thank you for coming. It's the least I could do, ma'am. Marcus spoke highly of you, said you were a good leader, said he'd follow you anywhere. The widow's eyes were red but dry. She'd done her crying in private. Did he die well? The question every military widow asked. The question that haunted every commander. He died fighting for his brothers, Ilara said carefully. He died doing what he believed in, and he saved lives with his sacrifice. The words felt hollow. But what else could she say? That he died because an admiral played games with human lives? That his death was meaningless in the larger scheme? Better the lie, better the comfort. The widow nodded, accepted the folded flag from the honor guard, and walked away with her children. Ilara watched them go, a woman and 2 children who would grow up without a father because she'd made a choice. Not the wrong choice, maybe, but a choice with costs. Henderson had died because she'd split the team, because she'd trusted her instincts over doctrine, because she'd been right, but being right didn't bring him back. She'd carried his body across 100 meters of fire, felt his weight across her shoulders, heard the bullets snap past, promised him silently that she'd make it count. Now, standing in Arlington among thousands of white stones, she wondered if she'd kept that promise. If exposing Ashford was enough. If stopping Valkyrie was enough. If any of it was enough to balance the scales against a man who'd never see his children graduate, get married, have children of their own. The answer, she knew, was no. It would never be enough. That was the weight commanders carried. That was the price of decisions made in darkness, with incomplete information and lives in the balance. But it was all she had to give. She placed her hand on Henderson's casket one final time. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "and thank you." Declan appeared at Ilara's side, leaning on a cane. His leg was healing, but would never be the same. Medical retirement was inevitable. "You did good," he said quietly. "I got Henderson killed." Henderson was a SEAL. He knew the risks. We all do. Declan stared at the fresh grave. "But you made sure his death counted for something. You exposed Ashford. You stopped Valkyrie. You kept faith with your team. That matters. Does it? Has to. Otherwise, what are we doing this for? They stood in silence, watching other families grieve at other graves. Arlington was full of young men who died in service to old men's decisions. The cycle never ended. What happens now? Declan asked. Naval Criminal Investigative Service is building their case against Ashford. Should take 6 months to get to trial. They want my testimony. You going to give it? Every word, Alara's jaw set. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what he did. To Dad, to us, to everyone he sacrificed for his ambition. That'll end your career. Navy doesn't like whistleblowers. I know. Declan smiled slightly. Your father would be proud. My father would have found a smarter way to do this. Maybe. Or maybe he'd have done exactly what you did. Burn it all down rather than compromise. Declan shifted his weight, wincing. For what it's worth, the team stands with you. All of us. We'll testify. We'll back your play, whatever happens. Ilara felt something warm in her chest. Gratitude, maybe. Or just the knowledge that she wasn't alone. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're all probably going to get court-martialed too. Probably. They walked together through the cemetery, past row after row of white headstones. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. All the warriors who'd gone before, all the sacrifices made in the name of something larger than themselves. Near the exit, they passed her father's grave. Lieutenant Commander Richard Thorne, beloved father and dedicated servant. The inscription said nothing about how he'd really died. Ilara stopped, placed her hand on the cold marble. I know now, she said quietly. I know what happened, and I'm making it right. The stone, of course, said nothing, but she felt better having said it. 6 months later, the trial began. The courtroom was packed with media, military brass, intelligence officials. Admiral Kendrick Ashford sat at the defense table in civilian clothes, looking older, diminished without his uniform. Ilara testified for 3 days, told the whole story, Operation Martyr, Mexico, the Valkyrie codes, everything. The defense attorney tried to break her, suggested she was unreliable, traumatized, seeking revenge for an imagined betrayal. But the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the documents Sokolov had provided in exchange for asylum, the testimony of Garrett Blackwood, who'd turned state's witness to save himself from a death sentence. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Ashford showed no emotion as they read the verdict, just stood there, stone-faced, as they sentenced him to life imprisonment at the military prison in Leavenworth. As they led him away, he caught Ilara's eye, mouthed 2 words. I'm sorry. She looked away. Sorry didn't bring her father back. Didn't heal Declan's leg or erase Henderson's children's grief. Didn't undo the damage. Sorry was just another word. The Navy discharged Ilara 6 weeks after the trial. Honorable discharge, full benefits. But the message was clear. Whistleblowers weren't welcome in the ranks. She didn't fight it, just packed her gear, turned in her credentials, and walked away from 20 years of service. Declan threw her a retirement party at a dive bar in Imperial Beach. The whole team showed up, everyone who'd survived Mexico, plus a dozen other SEALs who respected what she'd done. They drank, told stories, laughed at jokes only operators would understand. Near midnight, Wraith approached her with a young woman in tow. His sister, Madeline, released unharmed once Ashford was arrested. Commander, Maddie wanted to thank you personally. Madeline Hartwell was 24, Army medic with Wraith's same intense eyes. She shook Ilara's hand firmly. You saved my life, my brother's life. I don't know how to repay that. Live well, be happy, that's payment enough. I want to do more, Madeline hesitated. Wraith told me about BUD/S, about SEAL training, about what it takes to be the best. I was wondering, would you train me? Not for SEAL, I know that's not happening yet for females in my field, but for what comes next, whatever that is. Ilara looked at this young woman, eager and determined, wanting to prove herself in a world designed to break her. Saw herself at that age, saw her father, saw the cycle continuing. It's going to be hard, she said carefully, harder than you can imagine. And at the end, there's no guarantee of anything except pain and sacrifice. I know, but I want to try anyway. Ilara smiled. Then we start Monday. 0500 hours. Beach run. Bring your suffering face. Madeline grinned. Yes, ma'am. As the party wound down, Ilara stepped outside for air. The Pacific stretched endlessly before her, dark and vast. Somewhere out there, men were fighting and dying in wars most people would never hear about, sacrificing themselves in the service of something they believed was greater than themselves. She'd been one of them, might be again in some different form. But for now, she was just Ilara Thorne, not commander, not SEAL. Just a woman trying to figure out what came next. Declan limped out to join her, beer in hand. Penny for your thoughts, he said. Thinking about my father, about whether I did right by him. You exposed the truth. You made sure his death wasn't forgotten or covered up. You honored his sacrifice by refusing to let it happen to others. Declan took a sip of beer. That's all any of us can do. Remember the fallen, protect the living. Try to be better than the bastards who came before. You think we succeeded? I think we're still here, still fighting, still refusing to accept that acceptable casualties are acceptable. He raised his beer. To the martyrs, may they rest in peace, and may we live to make their sacrifices mean something. Ilara clinked her water bottle against his beer. To the martyrs! They drank together in silence, watching the waves roll in. The next morning, Ilara woke early and went for a run on the beach. 5 miles, easy pace, letting her mind wander. She thought about everything she'd lost, her career, her family connection, her belief in the system. Everything she'd gained, truth, integrity, a team that would follow her into hell. Thought about her father, dying in Bosnia believing he was serving something noble. Thought about herself, walking away from the Navy to preserve that same belief. Maybe they weren't so different after all. Her phone rang as she cooled down. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Commander Thorne, a woman's voice, professional, crisp. Just Ilara now, I'm retired. I'm aware. My name is Director Patricia Keene with the Defense Intelligence Agency. I'd like to discuss a proposition with you. Not interested in coming back to government work. Not government, private sector. We're building a team, former operators, intelligence specialists, people who've proven they can't be bought or broken. People who put mission and team above politics. A pause. People like you. What kind of team? One that handles problems the official channels can't or won't touch. Black ops without the government baggage. Answerable only to ourselves and our own code. Ilara stopped walking, stared out at the ocean. Why me? Because you proved you'll do the right thing even when it costs you everything. Because you've seen how the system works and you're not naive about it anymore. Because you're one of the few people I trust to have my back when things go dark. Director Keene's voice softened slightly. And because Declan Reeves speaks very highly of you. He's already agreed to join, said he wouldn't unless you did too. Ilara smiled despite herself. Declan's retired too, medical discharge. Which is why he's perfect. No conflicts of interest, no divided loyalties. Just a man with skills and principles looking for a way to still make a difference. The sun was rising over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. A new day, a new beginning. I'll need to think about it, Ilara said. Take your time, but not too much time. The world's full of problems and they're not going to solve themselves. Director Keene gave her a number. Call me when you're ready, or don't. Either way, thank you for your service. The real service, the kind that matters. the line went dead. Ilara stood on the beach, phone in hand, watching the sunrise. Behind her lay the past, her father's ghost, Ashford's betrayal, Henderson's flag-draped casket. All the weight of what had been sacrificed, what had been lost, what could never be recovered. Ahead lay something else. Not redemption, she didn't believe in that anymore. Not glory, she'd seen where that led. Just the simple, brutal truth that the fight never ended. That there would always be people in darkness, waiting for someone who cared enough to come. Her phone buzzed. The secure phone Director Keene had promised, delivered to her apartment while she ran. She checked the message. Ukraine brief uploaded. Coordinates attached. Declan's already mobilizing. See you at 1400. Keene. Below that, a second message from Declan. Torres is in. Kincaid and Boone too. Maddie asked if she can observe the brief. Kid's got fire. Reminds me of someone. Ilara smiled, pocketed the phone, turned from the ocean. Monday morning, she'd start training Madeline Hartwell, teaching her what it meant to be strong, not because the world was fair, but because it wasn't. Teaching her what Ilara's father had taught her, what Declan had taught her, what blood and fire and sacrifice had taught her. That the mission mattered, that the people mattered more, that the only way to honor the dead was to protect the living. That some things were worth dying for, but more things were worth living for. That acceptable casualties were never acceptable. The sun broke free of the horizon, spilling gold across the Pacific. Ilara started jogging back toward her apartment, toward gear that needed prep, toward calls that needed making, toward a team that was waiting. The cycle would continue. The fight would never end. But this time, the martyrs would be remembered. Their legacy would live on. Not in medals or monuments or official histories, but in every operator who chose honor over orders. Every commander who valued lives over mission stats. Every warrior who remembered that beneath the uniforms and the flags, they were all just human, breakable, mortal, worthy of something better than being someone else's acceptable loss. Ilara Thorne ran through the California morning, her father's voice in her head, her team at her back, the future uncertain, but hers to shape. She was ready.